Because chewing up the food at the table is gross for a 6-year-old, and it's also gross for a 32-year-old. Hello and welcome back to The Commonplace. My name is Autumn Kern and I am pleased to have you back to talk about a new angle in my series about the dumb phone, except we're actually not talking about the phone. We're just kind of adding in a side to the conversation that I think has been missing because I can only cover so much in a 10 to 15 minute video. But we're going to be talking about, is there such a thing as a humanizing way to engage with online content? I must tell you that it actually makes me laugh, probably as much as it makes you laugh, when I spend 15 minutes talking about modern Gnosticism and how we're being disembodied by the way we use our technology and our smartphones. And then I close out with, hey, you know what? I would love it if you joined me on my online platform called Patreon, where I've built this little community of amazing women and you should join us. It makes me laugh too in editing. I'm like, well, you know, I need to explain. I should have had a better bridge than that. So that's what we're gonna do today, is talk about a little bit about humanizing content, not so much from the creator standpoint, which I do have ideas about, and I guess it'll work its way a little bit in here, but actually, what does it look like to have and engage with meaningful, good, humanizing content, basically, on the internet, because I do think it exists. And I'm doing that to also tell you that I've been a little MIA on YouTube because I've been working on this big project called Common House, which is like a Patreon, but better. And I am excited that it is now open to the public. We've been slowly moving a Patreon over, moving the patrons themselves over. I'm really excited about it, and we're gonna kind of talk about it as I move through this video on humanizing online content. So the first thing I want to talk about is that there is a problem in, I think, the homeschooling content world where we as Charlotte Mason educators know that we would never serve pre-digested ideas to our children. If you're not a Masonite and you just heard that phrase the first time, it sounds kind of weird. Basically, we don't just offer ideas that we've already had, that we've already connected, or just the facts from ideas to our children and then have them take it in as their own opinion or their own final thought about it or their own connection between ideas. Instead, we present living ideas in their right form, usually through story, and we allow the child to make the connections that they make, and then they narrate back, they tell back to us. We have a whole way that we do it that's actually really important as Mason educators. But when we make online content, what happens is that a lot of it is that pre-digested material. It's, here's just all the affiliate links so you can buy my homeschool. Here is my timetable or my exercise routine or my way of talking to my kids. Just copy it and take it and you can have it too. And we don't often get into the ideas behind the practices, and everything has a philosophy. I've talked about that a lot. And we actually kind of do a disservice and I think dehumanize the person listening, the person watching by doing that, which is why I try not to. And that's actually the first principle when you look at content online, is the teacher, the woman, the mom, whomever it is, are they giving you something that you can copy and paste, or are they inviting you to think deeply and apply it to your personal life? Because chewing up the food at the table is gross for a 6-year-old, and it's also gross for a 32-year-old. It doesn't treat them like persons. And so when I think about the type of content I create, whether it's for Common House or it's for this YouTube or it's for my podcast, I am trying to point towards the ideals and ideas that have stood the test of time, that have continued to form people towards God, and not focus on me. I don't do, behind the scenes, or I don't want to poke at day in the lives, because I know I've watched those, like they can be helpful to be like, how do you homeschool so many children at one time? Like I think there's space for helpful resources that are a little more practical, so I'm not trying to push on those, but I don't make things like that because my mission is very particular. It's to help women get their bearings in this world. And one of my favorite Patreon comments, kind of like responses to the platform, was actually that she realized the thing that was different was that I was not giving her the answer. Instead, I'm offering ideas in their right context, pointing to the things that have stood the test of time, as I always say, and I let women feast on them. I let those ideas get to work in the minds of the women who come and learn with me. And that is humanizing. That's a good way to learn. We actually have a tremendous gift in our ability to get online and learn from people. That's absolutely wonderful. Can you imagine a time pre-printing press when people didn't have access to books and now we have this? It's absolutely incredible. But there are ways that we engage with it well, and I think another one of those principles is to engage with ideas slowly. I don't produce quick content. I don't do Instagram, I don't do TikTok, I don't do Reels or Shorts or whatever they're called, because ideas can't be presented in that very quick form, or at least not in context, and then a woman really doesn't have a full idea to wrestle with, to engage with, to think through, to apply. And that's actually really important. So when you think about the content you're consuming, are you consuming constantly? Do you have a good podcast on all of the time so that you're just a glutton and it's constantly going in, you're shoving in as much as you can get, and you're really not enjoying or being changed by any of it? Are you following creators who are constantly putting quick little sound bites out for you so that you don't have time to think, to let it wash over you, to be humbled by it, to be inspired by it? These things are really important. And so that's part of the reason why I left Patreon. The form of Patreon was not actually meeting my mission. As Patreon grew and we hit 300 and then we hit 400 members, I couldn't actually engage with ideas well with that many people in that platform. So I'm gonna have some stuff running here for Common House so you can see how it's built out. Now we have full courses, so ideas are presented in 20 lessons, full engagement. We continue to have our mini-sodes and we have our guides that I love to make. We have all these resources that help equip moms, because again, that's always my goal, not to make you like me, but to help you learn how to apply these eternal principles to your family, which is unique, and your ever-changing circumstances. Basically, we're trying to form prudence. That's the virtue which applies to all of that. And so it's not Patreon because it doesn't center around me as a creator. I'm not the great answer to every question, but it also is more organized so that the form is not overwhelming. You can move through ideas at a pace that is humanizing for you, and as you're able to engage, because not every mom can do everything at one point. And so those are just some of the principles that have gone into my end of creating it, but also what I think is helpful when you think about how to engage with online content, because it's here and we can benefit from it, but not if we either act like a machine, if we take in too much, or we take in these pre-digested ideas or this copycat formula, which isn't actually going to cause us to grow. It's going to make us really hooked to one person and feel like, well, I don't know what to do with my kids unless I know exactly what this one woman online would do. That's not learning. We don't want to hang out in that content world, right? Because being equipped means you might like a particular teacher. You might like their sense of humor. You might like the way they explain things. You might like the way they articulate big ideas into practical steps. That's all great. That's just our unique personalities coming to play. And it's really wonderful when we find someone where we're like, yes, you get me. I love this. I'm learning so well from this, right? That's always a treat. But it should never be, I can't do anything without that woman. That's not being equipped. That's just chaining yourself to a person. And doing that means you're not moving freely in God's world. And that's kind of a good sign that something is dehumanizing. Now, I am going to tell you a little bit about Common House because I have been working on it so hard lately and it's been such a treat. But there are kind of two things that I wanted to point out. Yes, we continue with all of our resources that we've had, all of the guides that I love to make, the monthly Q&As, which are live calls, so you can ask questions back and forth. All that sort of stuff continues. What grew is the ability to do courses. And so right now I'm launching Habits 101 and also How to Start a Classical Charlotte Mason Co-op. And I'm going to be working through lesson by lesson, offering templates, offering resources, legal resources for the co-op, things like that, so that you're able to go and take what you learn online and take it offline. That's another principle. Are the things you're learning online causing meaningful action in your home and in your local communities? That's always a good question to be asking. And to that end, we also have this international camaraderie. So we now have Common House groups, and the actual point of them is to take what happens in your house offline, because they're common group houses, offline into your real house. I am one who 100% believes and has said many times, find women in your local community, read the books with them, talk to them, start the co-ops with them, engage in ideas with them. And I have realized as the Commonplace Patreon grew to be more international, that is not a reality for a lot of people. We have women in countries where homeschooling is illegal, but they're here to learn how to mother in this way. We have women, particularly my Southern Hemisphere gals, shout out to them, where when a mom in Australia and a mom in New Zealand find each other and they're excited because someone can talk resources geared towards their countries, that shows me that actually it's really difficult sometimes to find this camaraderie. And so I'm okay with having that within Common House. I actually really love it. I love seeing people meet, plan hikes. I love seeing resources being shared, new ideas for co-ops going on. I think that's really amazing. And I think that is necessary sometimes, and online can serve that. Again, is it humanizing? Does it draw you back into your three-dimensional life? Does it add to it? Are you able to take it and grow with others around you? And also to be aware that sometimes no one in your local community wants to read Norms and Nobility by David Hicks. But guess what? There are moms in Common House who are, and they're discussing it, and they're going to have a little reading schedule, and it's a place where they can engage in ideas that, yeah, honestly, a lot of times women aren't aren't thinking about. So I understand that too. And so we now have this camaraderie matched with our resources, and also it's not centered on me. Yes, I'm the resource creator, I am in it answering questions, but we have moms in Common House who have graduated students. They've taught Latin, they've handled late readers, they've done things I haven't done like dyslexia or autism or stuff like that that I can't answer and won't answer because I can't do it well. But guess what? We now have the benefit of learning from other wise women because the platform is so different. And I've only heard great feedback so far. So if you'd like to join us, I have tried to switch out every link on every piece of Commonplace content. And so that way, hopefully you'll land over at Common House, but the link will be below as well. And I'm sure I've posted it already in this video. And I would love for you to come and see what it looks like to engage with humanizing content, because I do think about that in everything I make. And I hope that it actually does edify and equip. And I hope to continue to get better at it as I apply my Charlotte Mason pedagogy that I use with my kids at the formal table to everything that I make, to my real life friendships. You know, you hang out with Mason long enough, you realize you can't be the know-it-all. Telling everyone the answer all the time is not actually helping anyone discover anything. Sharing ideas is, and that was really hard for me to learn how to do. And so I am really excited to continue with women in Common House. Even here, the podcast is coming back in just a couple weeks. I'm really excited for season 3, and I hope that you will come and join and see what it's like to use the internet as a gift, because it can be that too, and that angle needs to be said in this Humanizing Dumb Phone series. But I will also be back to share more about the phone too. So I will see you in the next video. I hope you have a wonderful week.